The first thing I asked Enrico was how and why the political climate around Europe's future had changed. And the second thing I asked him was, what is the problem with reaching out to European public opinion? On one side we have complacency in Europe, and on the other side we have hostility, people feeling that Europe or their own country hasn't delivered enough. So if the control room could put those two segments together, and also if they could show it to us on the stage, on the big screen in front of me, not the little one that we can't see.
My point is the fact that the big member states considered that renouncing the currency and leaving their currency was an enormous effort. And they needed to, I would say, have a concentration of energies to get this result. And with this result and this effort, they considered that it was necessary to have a sort of compensation for their public opinions too, and for their sense of being still big powers. We have to consider that when these things happened, China was still a small country in the world. Because the big rise of China is the last 20 years, and we are talking about topics that happened at the beginning of the century.
Yeah.
So the key point was that the big member states at that time, in my view, didn't understand that the problem of the scale and the need to be together as European Union, as the only and I join Marc Davos' idea and the main idea of the book as the only way to be a power in the world of today, being together, being a superpower, but being a united superpower because it's the only way to be a power.
Yeah.
Fragmented, we have 27 weaknesses, not powers. But 20 years ago, the big member states were still convinced that they were able to play a role alone in the world. So they accepted to leave the euro, to leave the national currencies and to join the euro, but with the idea that there was a sort of compensation in terms of symbolism for the rest. And I think that today the problem is still there because one of the symbolism of national power is the fact that the member states, they want to have a national big incumbent in energy, a national big incumbent in telecom, a national big incumbent in the banking system, to show that the national flag is still meaning of power. And this is why today we don't have the euro, if I may say, on telecom, we don't have the euro on energy, we don't have the euro on financial services. And the fragmentation in these three is making happy Wall Street, the American industry, the Chinese industry, and is creating this paradox, the paradox that we are experiencing every day. We don't have a European credit card, we pay all with American credit cards. We have the European savings going to the US, strengthening American companies. They fly back to Europe to buy our European companies with our own money, and so on and so forth. This is, I think, if you ask me the reason, the historic reason, what happened. Now we have a last opportunity to become a superpower, and the power, the declination of power, the development of the word power can be done only at the European level. At national level, it's only weakness.
Bruno, you're a politician. You have to, your livelihood, your career depends on persuading voters which way to vote. You're now in a European Parliament where one MEP in 4 is now a Eurosceptic to one degree or another? Are we about, this is a very English idiom, about to be hoist on our own petard? Are we going to suffer from European level democracy?
It's a very metaphysical question, I must say. I think that yes, one of the big weaknesses in the European construction is that it takes only one country or two countries to oppose any kind of decision, and you can block the whole European Union. We do that to ourselves in some cases, and we can see, if you look at what's been happening in the last couple of weeks in Romania, for example, it's being done to us, because it's also quite clear that there is an effort with foreign influence to undermine democracy in at least one of the countries. And when you can do it in one of the countries, you can actually block the whole of the European construction, because it is vulnerable when it comes to strategic decisions to the rules of unanimity and the need to convince everyone. So yes, we have this risk, and it makes for a European Union that has a great difficulty of taking decisions, of making choices. And if you cannot make the choices, you cannot convince the public that they are in their interest, because it often takes a number of years before you can see any kind of effect. And the problem is we have never been doing that in the different European countries, and it's been deliberate, actually. Everything Enrico Letta says is true, and the base problem of that was it worked great as long as it worked for Germany. As long as it worked for the German economy, as long as it worked for the German export machine, as long as it worked for the German industry, it was okay. And there was no way of changing it. The whole thing has been built, the whole monetary union has been built for political and historical reasons, but also for very clear-headed, opportunistic reasons, on a model that benefits the German economy. Sadly enough, that model has hit its limits through a lack of investment, through a lack of investment capacity, which was deliberately built into the system, through a lack of clairvoyance in where we were going, and the shortcuts of depending then on Russia and not wanting to see the risks of that. And now we are in a situation where we have to, indeed, in a crisis, try to solve all those issues. But we are mentally not yet ready. If you look at what's the whole financial union, the monetary union, yes, the financial markets, no. If you look at the recent epic debate about just one banking merger with a German bank and the difficulty of doing that, even when it makes complete sense to construct a European financial area to make investment capacity possible, if you look at how impossible it is to defend in a German political space, I think the key is there. As soon as the German political environment is ready to face this, then yes, we might move forward. And so I'm kind of happy that the German elections have been moved forward in time, because I think it will help to clear up a number of discussions and then to hopefully move forward. But we really need that to happen, because otherwise we're just going to stay stuck. And there's this, indeed, Marc has quoted it, the saying that Europe moves from crisis to crisis. The problem is Europe is good in crisis. We've solved the monetary, we've solved the COVID. Actually, we did great things for the people. But I'm a lot more of a fan of what Paul-Henri Spaak said, which is that Europe has two kinds of countries. There's the small countries, and there's the countries that haven't yet realized that they are small countries. But a lot of those last ones are still not ready to face it. And I think maybe what is happening now might be a bit of a driver or an incentive to face that. But as long as we don't do that, we're not going to be moving forward.